This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
We mixed. We loaded it. We edited it.
Sometimes we get so deep into conversation that we have separate segments worthy of their own place in the sun.
Here is a reshuffled mini episode.
All right, all back for more podcast discussions, deep dives, and contacting all kinds of cult favorite celebrities. And in this case, we're talking to car racer herself, Belinda Gavin. Welcome to the show. You've done reality TV, you've done cable TV, you've done all kinds of other gigs, but truth be told, why entertainment of all professions?
Wow, that's a big question to just throw out there.
I'm going to keep it wide. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to probably think about that. Why entertainment? I think I was a born entertainer. So I look
Day
back
one.
over photos. Yeah. And my dad was a stuntman. One
Yes.
photo I recall very, very prominently is there's a photo of me in that old man mask. My dad would wear that old man mask out with my mom and would fall downstairs and would do falls and stuff while they're out in public. And I've got a microphone and it's actually upside down. And I'm like singing karaoke in my pajamas as a 9-year-old, I'm pretty sure. I don't even think I was that old. But yeah, so I was always the first one to get up to say something or at school, or I was always the one that was, theater, music, art, any of that stuff. I kind of jumped up. And, then I modeled as I got older. Actually, my mom took me to deportment school at 13 because I was a tomboy and I rode horses. And out at horse riding, they called me Bill. And my mom was like, no, you are not calling her Bill. I have 2 sons. I do not want another one. So I have pretty short hair most of my life, and I, was a wild child in the sense that horses, I was out in nature a lot, so I just let myself go crazy out there. So she sent me to deportment school, and funnily enough, I did like a deportment course with the local modeling school, and that was like I said, when I was about 13. When year 10 came and you had to do work experience, I was supposed to go to the local veterinary clinic, and the week of work experience, the vet clinic, or when I called the vet clinic to like double check to make sure that everything was okay, they were like, "Oh no, we don't have you placed anywhere." I was like, "Oh my God, what am I going to do?" It was such a huge part of the curriculum. So I called the modeling agency that I had maintained a friendship with, because I liked the courses and I wanted to do more courses. And I begged them, I said, "Please, can I come and do work experience for you?" And they said, "Yeah, of course." So that was grade 10. And then after that, they, put me on their books. And I guess the rest is history. They groomed me to be a model. And I was never a catwalk model. I had a body, meaning I had meat on my bones. Back then, it was, pretty skinny, as it is if you're fashion modeling, I guess, anywhere, anytime. But I was studying to be a PE teacher.
Yes.
And I was living in Brisbane at the time, and my actual booker went from Brisbane. So the booker is the one that books the models.
Correct.
And I had become very good friends with her, and she went to Sydney to work for a company called Chadwick's, which was a really big agency back then. And we had a beautiful model that had dark hair and light eyes, and she went to the United States. And so my booker said, hey, there's, Tanya Bird has gone to the United States, to the USA, and lives in LA now. And there's a spot that you could kind of potentially fill as a model with the similar look. So I was like, oh my God, to look like Tanya Bird. I mean, she was an incredibly beautiful. She had this amazing commercial that was for Ants Pants, which is a Australian underwear brand, and she had a echidna, crawling on her, and a whole bunch of ants, and she would say "Sick'em Rex," and so the echidna would eat the ants off her. Um, I mean, she did many, many commercials and a lot of modeling. So, I mean, yeah, I followed my booker because, your booker she liked me. I knew she would. So if she had said that and I could work for Chadwick's, that was like a dream come true.
It looks like
So
there's still a thing.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the biggest agencies in Sydney, and I think all over Australia probably now. And so I was still going to school in Brisbane, but I was not going to much school. Let's put it that way. I was like, modeling and making money. And I think the last semester of my schooling, it was pretty evident that I was not involved. And that was the end of the PE career. But, in hindsight, I ended up becoming a personal trainer. So a lot of that training, stuck with me, and I guess the satisfaction of training people and of personal training was a big, big thing in my life eventually. But at that point, I kind of up and moved to Sydney to give the modeling a full chance. And funnily enough, long story short, I kind of outgrew Sydney very quickly. And I thought, oh, what's next? And I was reading Lee Strasberg's book,
Yep.
and my partner at the time, Steve Mutter, we'd been friends for, I mean, many, many years. I went to the grade 12 formal with him. He went to a boys' school. He was a player, so I never really took much notice. But now, after high school, we started dating. And he said, oh, I'm going to go to Lee Strasberg, the school, the acting school. I said, oh, I want to go to Lee Strasberg as well. So that's what we did. We packed up. We moved to LA, and we arrived in the riots. And
Yep.
we
92.
went to Lee Strasberg, 1992. I was about 18 days off my 21st birthday.
Mhm.
But yeah, arrived in the riots. It was absolutely insane. We found out that there was you didn't have cell phones back then. So we got on the plane from Hawaii to go to LAX, and a guy next to us had a paper, and on the front page was like, LA is burning.
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, what are we doing? What's going on?
All the
Um,
unlikely people you know, and then all the unusual scenarios you thrust yourself into, and you're just like, hey, where's this going to go from here? Like,
yeah, well, we didn't know anybody. We didn't have any contacts. My boyfriend, Steve, at the time had been to the States before, but he didn't maintain any contacts or anything. So we asked the taxi driver, you know what it's like when you get to LAX, which that
mhm.
already was like, what's going on here? And so the taxi driver proceeded to tell us that this was a safe place. Oh, I just put another light up so I could see myself. This was a safe place.
Dramatic acting here, but
And I like, doo-doo, fix my own
yeah.
lighting.
Nice.
Um, he was suggesting safe places because we were like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to stay? We said, first, we'll just go to Lee Strasberg, right? And Lee Strasberg is right on Santa Monica Boulevard, right near, pretty sure it's La Brea,
Mhm.
between La Brea and like La Cienega. And there was a little tiny note on the board saying, on the wall, it was all closed up, saying, no school due to riots. LA was burning. It was on fire. It was traumatic. It was there was nobody in the streets. There was chaos everywhere. And we stayed at the I think it's the Sofitel. It might even still be there, on Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood. And the taxi driver said, "Oh, this is the safe place to be." Okay, so we were like, okay, cool. It was, a hotel chain that we knew. Um, Downstairs were the Baskin Robbins. It was, just on Santa Monica Boulevard between, I'd say, La Cienega and La Cienega and La Brea probably again. The other one was La Brea and Highland. That's where Lee Strasberg is. But so we stayed there. The next morning we came outside and there were bullet holes through the Baskin Robbins. So that was like, wow, welcome to LA. I was like, what the hell is going on? And even still back then, $250 a night, was really expensive. I was like, the first thing we need to do is find a place to live. It was total chaos for, obviously that day that we arrived, the city was shut down. The next day, things still got worse, I think, the next day. And it took about 5 days probably for things to settle down with the riots. In that time, I was already like, no, we need to find a place to live. So I had got, back then it was, I think maybe the paper, that you had and you looked for rentals. And being immigrants, firstly I went and got identification. So at that point in 1992, you could get a social security card if you were a student. So we came on a student visa. We got a social security and like an identification card so that we could actually rent a place, and proceeded to try to find a place. I mean, it was difficult, but we had to pay $5,000 for bond, and we got into a place. Then we didn't have a bed. We just had suitcases. We were like literally sleeping in our suitcases on the floor.
I'm sorry.
In the room.
I've slept in my car. I've never slept in a suitcase. That's awful.
A suitcase can be a very comfortable, padded place when you're wanting sleep. It was better than the floor.
But you don't want to do it every night. It's like free nights, and now I need a pillow, and I'll take the floor, but I need a pillow.
Yeah. Well, the next thing that we went to get was a bed. So we went down Highland, I believe, Highland, and we were going down to like Pico or something that was Olympic down there. I think it was Highland and Olympic. And we were in a taxi, and it was really, really, really a lot of traffic, and the taxi was ticking over, and I was freaking out. I was like, this is going to cost so much, and, we need to save our money. Let's just get out here. So we got out, we turned around Olympic Boulevard. Then there were tanks in the street. Tanks, guys with M16s. I was like, get back in the taxi, get back in the taxi. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So we took the taxi driver to the bed shop. Needless to say, the taxi driver bought us a bed, a double bed, put it on the roof of the taxi. We're literally holding it on by our hands, and drove us back, and we had a bed that night. But, that was the entry to LA. And I think it proved to be a great start to a really amazing part of my life. For 4.5 years, to be honest, I didn't go back to Australia for 4.5 years after that. I didn't complete. I don't think Lee Strasberg you ever complete, but I continued my studies at Lee Strasberg until...
You still studied a portion of the acting techniques. He's been dead since 1982, and he's best known for some of his movie appearances, but it is interesting how many are like, I love his technique, but I'm kind of glad I didn't have a class with him, because he is intense, and he kind of doing the psychological. Class. Yeah. You would hate to really be shouted at.
It was we got shouted at. Yeah.
You still did. Okay. Well.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was method acting at its. It was the backbone of my acting skills, but it was also I had lived a full life. I had a lot of things happen, including the death of a young brother who was only 8 weeks old. My parents were divorced. My mother had a breakdown. Oh, thank you so much, Cam. Yeah, it was, very traumatic at that point, but I was the father parent in the family, I would say, and kind of took over. My mom had a breakdown. We moved to my grandmother's, which was in a place called Yass here in Australia. That's like a teeny little town.
Itty bitty.
And for me, it was like we lived on the Gold Coast, which is kind of like Miami, Florida. So it's like moving from South Beach to Tampa or worse, like, yeah, it was like way worse for me, especially in grade 9. So that was quite leaving my
So
friend.
did you kind of take that almost kind of as a challenge? Because you're just like, I'm having all these other, unneeded scenarios I don't need at my age, but I'm up
Well,
to
my mom needed to be with her mom, so we moved there from my grandmother, and my grandmother was a
it had to
boss.
happen. But you
Yeah, yeah.
still, do you feel like
Oh,
that
I
kind of
I
made you a little,
rebelled.
you rebelled, but did you feel like you still got a bit of a fearlessness kind of impacted
Yeah, I tried to be
persona?
fearless because I refused to talk to anyone really. I was like, I'm not going to make friends. I'm only here for a year. My mom promised me we were only going to be there for a year. So I was like, I'm not even talking to anyone. 6 months after, and I brought my bike from Queensland, and my
Hmm.
bike had those big handlebars, like a surfing bike. So I had this bike that nobody else had and nobody else had seen before. And yeah, they called me stuck up and they called me all kinds of things. And after
Hmm.
about 6 months, it kind of got really tiring, not really having any friends. So then I became friends with the public school because I was at the Catholic school. So then I became friends with the public school kids, and the fun began to begin.
Did you ever have
um,
any teachers who you actually thought were like legit mentor? You're just like, I hope I am just as polished and awesome as you because you're making education
that's
cool.
it's a good question. And I remember my theater teacher
It's
was,
always the theater teacher. They're awesome.
yeah, she actually gave me a recommendation for Lee Strasberg, because I had obviously, especially in theater in later years in my schooling, had thrown myself in. So and it was probably the start of my production work as well, because I did on one play, I did sets, I did costumes, and was in the show as well, in our senior year. So it was, and I was a public speaker. I was a prefect in school, so a school leader type. I was sports orientated in the sporting field. I was the one who was like, come on, I know you, I can't do butterfly either. Come on, get in the pool. We're all going to do it. Let's go. Doesn't matter if you come last.
Yeah, well, that's just it. Like, it isn't like NASCAR at all. It isn't, if you're not first or last. Is like, yeah, you just
Yeah,
want to
just
stand
get in
out in
there
the
and do
scene.
it.
And
Yeah, yeah.
did you,
So
Backstage Magazine was so big when it premiered around that time. Did you ever see any like articles or castings and you're just like, man, what? I don't even know what they're looking for. Like, it's kind of vaguely descriptive.
no,
No, you didn't
you
get.
know, I mean, what show was it? Sorry.
Oh, just Backstage Magazine. It was kind of a
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Backstage magazine.
place to reach.
Not before I got to LA. Once I got to LA, that was my
Then just
Bible.
gotcha.
It was your Bible. Yeah, absolutely. Every Friday or whenever it came out, you'd be sitting there waiting for them to drop it. You know what I mean? And that was before Backstage. I'm so funny that you mentioned that. I was like, sometimes you forget things, you know what I mean? And as soon as you said that, I mean, I just the memories that came up about it, you're there circling, calling. I mean, back in the days, I didn't have a car when I first went to LA. And the worst city to not have a car in, like the worst.
Mm,
And auditions could be anywhere. They could be
right.
I lived right in Hollywood, so I lived on Hollywood and Hollywood, and I'm gonna say once again, probably La Brea, close to La Brea, in the middle there. I could walk to the where the stars, the Walk of Stars started. And there was a nightclub called oh God, I nearly had the name. It is in Yucca, so it was like a hole in the wall. But catching a bus was a nightmare. And
Mm,
you had to have a map with you so that you could find where it is and the number of times. I mean, it would take you hours on a bus, but that was how I auditioned. I was also working as I immediately had to start work because that was me. My Steve, he had parents that supported him. I didn't have that. I had sold a car that my dad bought me, and funnily enough, serendipitously enough, although my dad was really angry at the time, my dad bought me a new car. When I moved to Sydney modeling, I crashed that car. Now, he told me that it got totaled. In hindsight, he actually called them and said total it because it was a brand new car, and if it was totaled, I would have got a new car.
Right.
So it got totaled. I got a new car. I sold that car, which was probably $24,000 worth of car back then, which was still a decent amount. I sold it for like $14,000, sorry. I spent like $4,000 getting out of Sydney because I went to Mardi Gras before I went to
God.
LA. And then I
Gotta
had
have
that
some
money.
fun, even in
So
the
yeah,
worst time of the
once
world.
that exactly, once that 5 grand, we had to put on bond. I was running out of money, so I had to go get a job. So as soon as we started classes at Lee Strasberg, I walked down La Cienega and I ended up getting a job in a little cafe. Um, Penny Feathers. That's right. It was called Penny
Penny
Feathers.
feathers. Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound
Something
like
else.
something that's still around. Let's see.
I don't think it's still around, but there was a nightclub a big nightclub that I ended up working at as well that was across the street from it. So it was there for years. I don't think it's there anymore, only because I worked on La Cienega at Todd Tramp's Total Fitness.
You'll love
Yeah,
this. So, Little Tokyo area, and it has an LA Times review from '89.
perfect. Yeah, Penny Feathers. It was where everyone from AA went. So Ken, that's how I learned about AA and coffee smokers and not that people who are sober or are in AA are good for them, but they were like, really kind of sharp and moody at times, and they drank a lot of coffee and they smoked a lot of cigarettes.
Mhm.
But I had a job and I had tips coming in. Minimum wage, it was like, I don't know, $4.50 back then. But I was making money. So for me, all I needed to add into there was some acting and some modeling jobs. And I was happy. I continued my studies on, I broke up with my boyfriend, Steve Mutter.
Mm.
But that, needless to say, caused a lot of amazing acting classes for them because in true Lee Strasberg spirit, they loved a good conflict. So they would put us up and
Right.
I was not scared to let loose. I was not scared to let my emotions out. I was not scared for people to see me out of control. So a lot of these things were good for Lee Strasberg. So then all they wanted to do really was mold and have me and teach me to control all of that emotion and all of those experiences that I had and how to parlay them into acting.
But it's kind of cool. You've been kind of the queen of just constantly moving, shifting around, adapting to whatever comes your
Yeah,
way instead of
whatever
I'm
life
going to
throws at
stay
me.
right here and not going
Yeah,
anywhere. So, would
yeah.
you say you never were keen on staying comfortable anyway, just because you're always going to have
That's
to
such
adapt?
a great question. Did I not want to stay comfortable? Cam, I'm really busy all the time. And someone said to
Yeah.
me a few years ago, they said, I said, I might do that when I'm not so busy. And they said to me, I don't think that you're ever not busy. And I was like, you're kind of right. You know what I mean? You're kind of right. Like I do like to adapt and I do have an ever-changing environment, and I think adaptation. And many people say, "Oh, you're a cat; you land on your feet." I have very good skills at making lemonade and drinking tequila out of lemons, and I think that kind of finding the sweet spot for me in different areas was and still is a journey of life and enjoying those experiences or just taking in the experience, not running away. But people did say that I ran away from Australia, and you know what, I probably did. I was done. I lived on the Gold Coast, beautiful place in Australia, but still a small town for me. So here I was at Sydney. I outgrew it really quickly. Beautiful place. Um, LA, I was like a sponge. I was just like
Yes, soak it up.
soaking everything in. Schooling was great. I, continued school. I probably stayed 3 months was the initial that I'd paid for. I could not afford to pay for a whole nother 3 months again. So I think I paid for, when you did 3 months, you did maybe 6 intense classes. 4 of those classes, which were acting classes, like basic acting classes, consisted of 4 hours of relaxation.
Mm. So
So,
kind of get your guard down and then
yep,
kind of almost a meditation in a way, kind of.
starting with, yeah, going inside, feeling, then doing your sense memories, which were showers, your bedroom, there's 12 of you lying around on the floor, groaning, moaning, blah blah blah, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was full on. And getting into pockets of your body, and being a personal trainer, I now understand how our body holds memories, emotions, and how to tap into those areas of your body. Once you start to relax, you can feel, our stomach is a great tense area that we hold a lot of emotion. And, all the huh, 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 getting the noise out, was
Yes.
really difficult for people. Me, I came from a household where we screamed and yelled at each other. I was no problem for me to scream and yell and get all that out. So it was a great experience to learn the what was inside me, that the tool that I had. And I continued modeling. Modeling probably helped me through that time, but I also I was already bartending in Sydney, but vastly different to bartending in America.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, I don't even remember exactly how I met these friends, but I met some friends, and one girl, April LaRue, she was the manager at a bar. I mean, April LaRue, yeah, I'm waiting for you to Google her. I'm not sure if she'll turn up on Google, but April LaRue was one of the best
I'm such a
gay,
narc with my reaction. I'm like, nothing.
yeah. Um, April LaRue was one of the
Actually, I see.
biggest promoters of
Yep.
men's club. The men's room. The men's room was her baby, and the men's room was a gay event and party that she was the promoter for. And she
Well,
promoted it from about 500 to about 5,000 in the end.
here's a
Um,
GeoCities for her. So, hey.
yeah.
Not big on social media, but so I just backtracking a little bit. Did you have any other just kind of other fun recreational or relaxation stuff since you were kind of a loner for the most part? Like, did you do board games, read, or listen to music?
No, I was not a loner. I was at the bar. I was at the
Well, no,
club.
I just mean a little prior. So you did go out
Yeah.
and party and do other fun stuff, but you were avoiding
Yeah.
school like it was prison, like many of us
Y-
were. But
Like not acting school. Not I mean, no, I was not avoiding school. I was a school leader. I was there. I was
right,
in.
right,
I
you were
mean,
going, but you were avoiding all the annoying crowds that came with it. Is what I. But that's
well,
so
I
cool.
actually hung out with a group of 10 girls in high school,
Mm.
which was we were a pretty big posse. Yeah, I really enjoyed school. With the acting school, it was my life, you know what I mean? So we basically lived there, and Penny Feathers was around the corner, so I would walk to school, walk to work, walk back home. It was the first time that I had to live with somebody in a one-bedroom place. My roommate slept in the living room because of necessity.
Yep.
But we had some fun times. And then, yeah, that's how I ended up like meeting April LaRue, and she said to me, "Oh yeah, you could be the door girl for the nightclub." I said, "Oh, okay, great." And really, I wanted to bartend. So once I got in there, I was like, "Oh, I really want to bartend." And she was like, "Well, you can't bartend now, but we could teach you to bartend." So
Mm.
everything closes at 2 a.m. So at 2 a.m., this was a small, grungy bar. Like it was the early 90s. There was flannels, long hair. There was, lots of grunge. Um, so I learned to bartend in those after hours. And eventually they put me on as a bartender.
That's neat.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for any entertainer, but it is interesting how like it just kind of sometimes you get that gig and other times they're like, oh no, we've hired too many struggling actors.
Oh yeah. Well, that was my whole life. I mean, from there on, I had some amazing bartending jobs. The House of Blues, the Viper Room. Yeah, I ended up promoting clubs and things like that as well. So that was quite natural to me. Organizing things came quite natural. In grade 10, I organized the after party after the formal. And funnily enough, my mom chaperoned the underage people at the local nightclub back in those days. We organized it with the owner, and she babysat essentially.
As long as you don't
100
set anything on fire, we're okay.
Well, flaming Lamborghinis were a thing, Cam. So my mom was literally drinking flaming Lamborghinis with the owner of the club. There were parents that were, really upset and tried to call it off. And my mom's like, no worries, I'll chaperone all of you. So that's what she
You
did.
owe me, parents.
Yeah. I was like, wow, thanks, Mom.
We'll return after these messages.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
I'm this, event manager that has been working in events for 15 years now, I guess.
Did you have any other like shoulda, coulda potential jobs? Because I always admire. It's kind of been a theme with the show, just seeing people have worn so many hats.
Yeah. It for those 4 years, Cam, I was illegal. I had a student visa, but a student visa didn't get you a real job. And perhaps some of this was in my mind because if I had it, well, my thing was if I kept auditioning. If they really liked me, they would get me a visa. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Acting was a huge game. You're so damn nervous. You've got to read 3 lines and there's 50 people waiting to do the same thing. And anyone who's auditioned knows exactly the feeling. And you have to make it look natural and believable and all of that. So I would go to auditions and already have this thing in my mind like, you don't deserve it. You don't even have a visa. Those things are crucial to be clear of those. Already I had a boundary. Already I had a roadblock in my brain, not even knowing myself. So as I look back in hindsight, there are many, many opportunities I missed. I was a very good networker. Although I went out and partied, I was always the one that was like I felt the most soberest and I observed everything. I met some amazing people, including Elliot Mintz, who I'm still, I would say friends with today, but I haven't seen him for ages. But Elliot said to me, oh, you should meet Ed Lamato, I believe it was. I said, oh, yeah, great. Elliot Mintz is the manager of Yoko Ono and John Lennon. And
oh my God.
He's got an amazing story, yeah. And so this Ed Lamato was actually, I think, a huge manager. That was one big ball that I probably dropped. And, as I moved into my career and kind of realized who these people were, I did have some regret that I never had the balls back then to actually go and see, have a meeting and take Elliot up on his opportunity. Although I did get to meet, a lot of stars. I was bartending in all kinds of fabulous places. I never really respected my bartending jobs. So my friends were like, hey, do you want to come to sit on the courtside at the Lakers? I'm like, oh, I got to work. Oh, how much money are you going to make working? $300 or $400. Okay, no worries. Here's 5. Okay, great.
It seems
So,
like you've had a lot of second chances. Like, not interested in physical education, then you're already a certified, level 4 trainer. So it
yeah,
could easily happen. You're now doing this podcast thing, so this is kind of radio, I guess.
yeah,
You're now
yeah,
doing
yeah. Oh, I love radio. I love radio. I love entertainment, and that was a great start to it, and I realized over the years that entertainment is not just acting, but for me, that's
No.
where it started. Yeah, then I lived in a big house in Hollywood Hills in Laurel Canyon, above the Canyon store, like just a
The
walking distance from
Kents.
the Canyon store,
Mm.
but we would still have delivery. But those guys, there was like 7 bedrooms scattered. It was a mansion. It was an old, dilapidated mansion, but it was still amazing fun. And the guys that lived there actually paid the rent in illegal after parties. So we would have an after party once a month, sell beer for $2, shuttle people from Hollywood Boulevard because there's no parking up there, shuttle people up,
Yeah,
and then scatter when the police came.
gotcha.
But yeah, so those
Just
guys
another
were.
Tuesday for you.
It was
You've done all
literally
kinds of rowdy
Tuesdays.
parties. And you're like, yep, I know
Tuesday was
I'm not gonna snitch. I'm gonna get
no.
out.
Oh well, I mean, one time I remember the police came. We ran up the hill because literally you could. The backyard was there. Then another time we hid in. There was a sauna. I was living with the boyfriend at the time in one of the master suites, and there was a sauna, a little tiny sauna that was like the size of a closet. So we hid in the sauna, about 6 of us, and shh, 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 so the police couldn't find us.
Shut
Um,
up. Shut up.
yeah, shut up. But that was like, I was like, wow, look at all this, and it was back in the day where promoters would come into clubs and bring the people. I knew a lot of people. I was, especially I embraced the gay community, which embraced me. That was where
Hmm.
I made my best friends. I had my
Love it.
best times. Um,
I mean, it's just a peaceful community. It's pretty hard to
yeah,
argue with that.
I didn't, I was
Free expression.
exactly. Yeah, I could dance on a podium without getting hassled.
Who's gonna judge?
Who's
gonna
I was
judge?
told, I was continually told how beautiful I was and not hit on, but if I wanted to go home with somebody, the straight bartender was always there, so I was like the best of all worlds. Yeah, I continued to stay within the community probably a lot. I worked in the community a lot, meaning bartending and at the clubs.
Yep.
Well, what happened was that bar in Hollywood was the right where the 18th Street gang. It was literally in the back of this club. So when I parked my car to go to work, the 18th Street gang people were there. But I'd worked there for so long, and April LaRue had taught me so well to, welcome them, let them, they told us about things. They would, when I was the door girl, they would literally throw me in the door when there was a drive-by.
You
Throw
were
me-
thrown inside. Okay.
yeah, I'd be sitting outside, checking the guest list and stuff, and they'd be like, "Get inside!" They come running by, "Get inside! Get inside!" Do, 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 do.
Mm.
Thanks. But then the owner, as I would leave late at night, the owner would hit me up and be like, "Hey, Belinda, baby, da 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 da." And I always was like, "I gotta go home to my boyfriend." Da da da.
Yeah.
And then also it was quite natural for everybody to have a gun. And then they offered me to buy a little Beretta. It was like, I remember it was like as big as my hand. And I was like, wow, I don't even know how to use a gun.
Did you have any military buddies who you could ask for some advice?
Well, that comes later. But at the time, I thought, at the time, there was a manager that had left, and he had gotten a management position at a place called the Sunset Marquee at the whiskey bar. So he had asked me if I wanted to come over and work over there. I couldn't bartend because obviously I just started bartending then, but I could wear a catsuit and famously star with Randy Gerber at the whiskey bar. So I needed papers. I got papers.
Nice.
I I got papers and I got a new job at the swanky Sunset Bar, Sunset Marquee, which had the whiskey bar, which was a lobby bar, Cam. I mean, it was as big as a toilet, basically, but it was literally the lobby of the Sunset Marquee, which is a beautiful hotel still in
Wow.
West Hollywood. It had a recording studio there. A lot of rock and roll people were there all the time. I mean, the people that I served, the people that I met at that bar, I think I worked there all up maybe maximum 3 months. I did not have a solid job for the next 2 years.
Mm.
So I met, that's where I met stars and went to Hollywood parties and, worked at the Monkey Bar, worked at the Milk Bar,
Oh,
all
wow.
kinds of places that, where anything that was hot, I would get a job there. Met a friend who said, I know some people in Miami and you can get a modeling visa. So I got a modeling visa and moved to Miami and did 2 seasons, which is the 2 winters in Miami. And Bob's your uncle. I was now legal. I mean, there's a lot more behind the story than that. I was very lucky because I had friends in Aspen, including Hunter S. Thompson, who gave me his lawyer.
Nice.
Because at one point I was trying to go to Mexico with Richard Rogers from Mary Kay and a whole group of people that were going. And I didn't have an ID to get back in the country. So I went to try to get a driver's license with my fake papers from LA. And they were like, well, they took all my information and they were like, hey, well, these papers are fake. And I was like, oh my God, that's not what my lawyer in LA told me. And they were like, well, you better call your lawyer in LA. I was like,
wow.
so that was a fast trip to Vegas. And on the way, I was going to get married to the boyfriend that I was with. And on the way, we spoke to Hunter Thompson's lawyer. He put me in touch with someone in the consulate, Australian consulate. And I told them that, I was about to get a modeling visa. And bada bing, bada bang, I left the country and re-entered and without a problem. Every time I had to get a visa, Cam, I had to sit in Australia for 3 months. So the impact of that never really struck me actually till I came back as an adult and much older. I just did it. I just left everything. I would go back to Australia. I would wait for 3 months. I had a great time reconnecting with my dad the first time it happened. And to be honest, I probably stayed with my dad, who's a big part of my life now, a number of times when I had to do that, because that's the process. The processing time is 3 months. But only as a grown adult did I understand what that meant to be stopping work momentum, to be stopping auditioning, to be stopping any of the networking that I was doing, stopping any of the jobs that I was doing, to move house.
But it was constant interruption, constant barriers as a result.
Every 3.5 years, every 3 to 4 years. Yeah, every 3 to 4 years.
Did you ever feel like someone was just goofing up the paperwork or something, or just?
I had a lawyer. I had made sure I had a lawyer, and I had all my paperwork from the. I mean, it's literally a stack of papers that they put together. So no, I trusted the process. I believed that I was going to get visas, and I did. I got modeling visas. And then I got married. I mean, I knew that was the ultimate. I got married to somebody that I had worked a deal with, let's just say. That deal didn't work out. So I was bartending at the Mayan, which the Mayan let me bartend there twice. One time for a really long time, abused that. And then they took me back for more. I was much more conscious then and respected my job. But at that point, it was a New Year's Eve, and it was a gay night, a gay promotion, and there was a hot guy, and I kept giving him water all night, and then eventually I said, "Hey, it's such a shame," and he's like, "What do you mean it's a shame?" I said, "It's a shame that you're gay because you're so hot." He's like, "I'm not gay." I was like, "What?"
Well, that changes everything. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess back then now it's called bi, but he had a relationship with a guy. I mean, it didn't bother me. He was a personal trainer, and we got married. We were married. and he helped me get my green card, or my residential alien card at that point, because I eventually got married to someone else, an Australian, which didn't do any good except brought me back to Australia. Fortunately, and thank God for Lee, because 2 years after that, my mom passed. So I did get to have time with my mom before she passed. But she came to visit me in LA when I was working at the whiskey bar, and she did not even know who she was sitting next to at times. And I remember she was missing, and I'm like, where the hell's my mom? And you didn't have mobile phones back then, so I had to wait.
No.
And she had gone with Steve Kerner, who was a great guy, and they'd been smoking weed, and she'd been drinking Goldschlager, so she was wasted. It was, yeah, she looked like Uma Thurman from Pulp Fiction back then. She had that haircut, that black haircut. So
Gotcha.
she was like, we looked like sisters, and she had an absolute ball. You know, the acting continued once I got my modeling visa in Miami. I modeled, but then I eventually came back to LA. And even in Miami, you know, I did as much acting as possible. I didn't speak Spanish, so that was a downfall. So eventually, once I had
Más o menos. More or less.
dos cervezas, por favor.
Okay.
Baño un poquito, I call it barback Spanish.
Perfect.
But so I eventually moved back to LA, and that was kind of the start of my second round in LA. And it was 2000. Well, if I had to go back to Australia in 1999 because I was scared the world was going to end. So I went back, had a nice time, and came back to LA.
I can't begrudge you for that because the media was in a frenzy at that time.
Yeah, exactly. But when I came back to LA, I knew, especially because now I had a certain respect for the visa, that now I was able to work. So I had then changed the visa to, well, eventually I came back on a modeling visa that was from Miami, but I then had an agency called Dragon Talent, which was created by some of my gay friends that I had bartended with back in the day. And it was the first agency that had tattooed queer people. So it was very diverse, very alternative. And I had one tattoo. I was like a pretty model that had a big raging bull. It's not that raging anymore, but a big bull tattoo on her shoulder. And so they represented me, which was fantastic. We did a bunch of music videos, you know, as a whole agency, they would be hired just for diverse looks. So, you know, we did, you know, Madonna, Lenny Kravitz, Tori Amos, Shakira.
Sweet.
I mean, it was like a big party on set.
Did you ever find yourself in any of those videos, or?
Oh yeah, yeah. Fly Away, which is Lenny Kravitz. I'm like in the middle of the thing because I wore these Afro puffs. So I'm like, you can see me. I can see me. I'm always like, there I am. It goes, I want to fly away. I want to get away. I want to fly away. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. On that whole chorus, it flashes back to me a bunch. So I'm like, there I am. There I am. There I am.
I had no idea. I never saw you listed anywhere, so I knew you were on that one syndicated show. It was on every other Fox channel, The Lost World. That.
Oh yeah, I did that in Australia. The Lost World.
Right.
Yeah. So when I went back, I was still acting. I did, you know, in that 3-month hiatus. But yeah, I did The Lost World a bunch of times.
I've noticed so many people have tried this avenue. Have you ever thought of doing, and this is going to be cheesy to some, but I don't care. Any audiobook narration or
yes.
And people who are doing video games now they're doing motion capture. And I figure with an athlete like you might want to try something like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Scan your persona in.
I listened to audiobooks. Somebody actually did it after Gladiator is a fan. I need to follow up on that. He did a comic book or comic about Kylie Coyote, I believe. I've never seen it. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if that's come out. Maybe this might bring it out of the woodwork.
You're not the only one to get fan mail. It seems like everybody, like, I've heard all kinds of actors talk about this where just like they didn't realize they had a fan of any kind, but oldest trick in the book. I got a letter in the mail. It's someone saying, "Hey, can you sign this autograph?" Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to love going to conventions for that reason, interacting with your fans. And that's why, with this show, Sexhibition, I allow other creators and stars to have meet and greets and to mix with their fans in a safe environment. And that's
Totally.
that's a big point for the show, for my adult stars to be able to do that, because mixing with your fans is what keeps you relative. Where would
Yes.
we be without our fans?
They've gotten
And I would,
better at places I've been because like they're just reminding everybody like in just bold letters, bring this kind of stuff. Hey, if you got this kind of item, let's go in this back way. So it's
yeah,
not you don't have to run across like the street to bring this, or let's
yeah,
let's give you a shipping crew or give you a discount or whatever. And
yeah,
when people are doing cosplay, again, same kind of deal. It's like it's Halloween 24/7, basically, But I
yeah,
really want to look like
exactly,
these characters. People are being even more
exactly.
creative, even making a business is like you want props, but you also want some merchandise you're not going to get anywhere else. Here you go.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right, very nice. But yeah, video games are interesting just because motion capture. You're not just in the voice booth. You're actually like you could be like this
I would
giant
love,
reptile
I
to
would love
enemy.
to be, yeah, I would love to be in a video game. I don't play games.
I don't
I
do it
don't
anymore
live,
either. Yeah.
yeah, I don't live in the screen a lot these days, except for social media, obviously. But I'm a very social and active, outdoorsy kind of person. I would absolutely sit in a green room and do green screen for action. But yeah, I love the action
Genre.
games. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite ones was the old. I don't know. I guess it's
Prince
maybe PlayStation or
Persia,
whatever.
maybe.
Well, no, the punching games. You know what I mean? The
Mm.
boxing game. The
Oh, there
boxing one was my favorite because
2D. There you go.
Wii was it the Wii? You know what I mean?
Oh,
Where
there you go.
yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
actually interacting, making your
yeah.
hand
You're
move
actually
because
interacting.
it's
With
scanning it into yeah.
yeah, yeah. You hold the things in your hand, and you were like,
There you go.
yeah, those games I
Um,
liked.
and what is the marketing and advertising scene like in Sydney now? Like, because marketing seems to vary everywhere. Everyone was predicting the internet was taking over. Is like, yeah, but billboards will always be around.
Yeah. Marketing is a very interesting game, and obviously coming
Part
into
of every business.
Sexhibition,
Yeah.
yeah, in every business, but yeah, coming into a big show like we're doing. I haven't lived in Sydney since I left for the States. I now live most of the time in Melbourne, which is an absolutely amazing state, city, and Victoria is an amazing state in Australia. Um, and you're right, Queensland is kind of like Florida, Melbourne's kind of like New York City, and Sydney's a bit like LA for me. That's how I see it.
Mm,
And Western Australia is like Texas. And
wow.
obviously there's all kinds of different marketing in those different areas. Social media and online marketing is obviously something that is very strong here still. But I'm an old school. I'm like, even with the show coming up, I'm like, get the girls out in bikinis and handing out flyers. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure
just
is.
get something, yeah, some kind of shiny object. Oh, look at that. What's that? Billboards I quite like. I like the moving billboards, and I do like a commercial, TV commercial, although I don't really watch a lot of TV, but we've just had all the sports finals, like the AFL finals and the NRL finals, and the best commercials of the year are in those shows, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I still think commercial branding and marketing has to be clever, has to be catchy.
Yes.
It's such a game, and marketing is such a game. I work very closely with my PR with Shireen down here in Melbourne, and my scenario is, oh, a cat fell out of a tree. Well, how do we make that about sexhibition? How do we make that about sexhibition? Oh, let's put a sexhibition t-shirt on that cat. Now it's about sexhibition. You know what I mean? And that's the
There you go.
mindset you have to come from these days. It's not about really sending out um, press releases. Although what we do, Shireen does perfectly, is specifically customize each press release for the press that she wants to send it to, and pick up on things that, like Daily Mail, we know what kind of things they like. News Corp, we know what kind of things they like. I mean, Daily Mail, I've just done 4 articles. One is Mamma Mia, well, 2 for Mamma Mia and 2 for the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail, I was sleeping with 20-year-olds. Then the next week on Mamma Mia, I'm a demisexual. And then next week in the Daily Mail, I think I kind of go into a lot of detail about which I thought was a social drug habit. We've turned it into a full-blown habit, which as I was reflecting, giving the interview, I was like, you know what? Maybe I was an addict. Maybe, I always thought I had control and I always thought this and that. But as I was reflecting in the interview, I was like, well, any kind of illegal drug is probably, you got to admit that. Yeah. Some of it's legal, some of it's not. But, it was a good reflection on my activities from 21 to 23. But also I asked myself, if I was not promoting Sexhibition, would I be telling them this story?
Well,
You know what I mean? So
gonna be a bit on that.
I'll do publicity for the show any way that I possibly can. Like I said, getting this show out there is part of breaking that stigma around sexuality and pleasure and all of the jobs included in there. So for me to have some story about, me being a drug addict, whatever, but that's the type of marketing, that people look for. It's clickbait these days.
Which sucks because there can be a legit good story in there. It's just everybody's just distracted by just
noise.
And the image that is just to get your attention, but not necessarily what's
Exactly. And everybody's different. So, you have to cater towards each genre, each age group. If you want, a show like Sexhibition, we're from 18 over all the way to 65. We've had 70-year-olds there. But the and LGBTQIT and queer, safe and want the community there. But it's really hard to please everybody all the time. So it's been a journey working on how to inspire people to come and check out what we have, and sometimes we find that it's maybe too much for people. So we need to tame it down a little bit, because make it a little more vanilla, because not everyone wants to be like, hellfire, BDSM. A lot of people do, but that's why we have, at this show coming up, we have kinky sex ed. So we've blended them, but usually we have them separate, and the kink area is always very, very busy. People want to have a glimpse at what they probably either curious about or don't know anything about and just heard about it. They get to see things in the flesh.
Mm-hmm. Hey, like you say, sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah. But yeah, we're totally in that marketing bubble right now, and using every possible avenue to get clicked from the clickbait.
I'm glad you're getting a good experience out of it, but also just, it's the time for everybody to be free and just say, hey, this is what we're about. This is our...
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't blow anybody up, so yeah, don't be mad at me.
Exactly. Give me a break. I'm just new to a lot.
What are the big convention centers in Melbourne right now?
So the convention center in Melbourne has a lot of amazing things. The MCEC, it's called. Australia has a number of beautiful convention centers: Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, Brisbane. For the show Sexhibition, the 28th through to the 30th of November, we're actually at the Brisbane Showground. So it's a different venue for me. It's a similar venue to some of the convention centers, but it's where they have the show, the Royal Show for Brisbane, the ECA, the exhibition, but they call it the ECA. So it'll be a new venue, which is very exciting. And then next year we plan to take Sexhibition to Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, and then some regional places, which is really exciting. Canberra, Newcastle, and for years while I was with Sexpo, when we were in lockdown, Queensland, which is up north, they stayed open and there were shows run. Yeah. And, Queensland is a very big state and it has a lot of pockets of cities like Townsville, Cairns, so to take the show to some regional places where they don't get a lot of entertainment would be great. But obviously coming to the major cities and seeing the amount of people, usually we get 12 to 15,000 people through the doors over the weekend. There's over 300 staff, meaning performers, educators, creators, VIP stars, special guests, co-hosts, hosts, models, runway shows. Yeah, all the bips and bobs, and really creating this event and this type of event for me has been phenomenal and an amazing amount of work. And it's like it's like doing a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle when it's all one color. So sometimes it feels like that, you know what I mean? But, I have an amazing team behind me, obviously. We all work pretty hard. It's a small team. It's always been a small team, but a very, very concise team. And we do put on a lot of hats, and we do whatever we need to do to get the job done. Well, that's my mantra anyway. And after doing the shows now it'll be 5 years this year, you learn. What was funny, I said to a friend of mine just the other day, I was on tour in Tasmania and went to a bull riding event, which was spectacular. Also touring with Kylie. But I said to her, hey, it's so funny how I can have anxiety about a show that's coming up in 7 weeks. Because I just mill it over in my brain. But it's like the helicopter. I mean, I'll now go to bed thinking about the show and I'll be like, oh, try to think of butterflies. But instead what I do is I'll envision the show. I'll envision the show, how I see it looking, how I see each stand, how I see the main stage unfolding, how I see everybody's experience, how I see, the revenue. And actually what I started doing a few months ago is also writing my journal backward. So backward from Monday, Tuesday, from the Tuesday after the show, writing it backward.
Perfect. Just like reverse chronological order. It's just like, you already know what you've mastered. What's just another day on the block.
Yeah.
So you're just like,
it's I'm storyboarding. I'm storyboarding the show, basically. I'm storyboarding what happens at the show, how smoothly it runs, and I'm visualizing that and I'm manifesting that. And then when things pop up, then it's just problem solving, and I know that the show must go on. That's always happened. And it's those amazing directors and producers that turn 14 pieces of paper into a full-fledged amazing movie that are my inspiration.
If they need to.
Yeah. Into an hour and a half of great entertainment. That there's always a fix. It may not be the best fix, but there's one thing that I know as well, that don't break character.
No.
Nobody knows. Not. Nobody knows what's going on. So if you stop and go, oh shit, I forgot my lines, then everybody knows. If you just fumble your way through it, they might like that. Same with the show. If I have to change someone around and, they don't get angry. They're not going to know that, I had to replace someone with so-and-so.
I did some improv comedy in college, and it was way better than junior high or high school, where everyone's just trying to say a line and make, mommy, daddy proud. It's like or make your teacher say, okay, you get a C, but when in college is like, it really is life-changing stuff where you're like, this is helping me make way more rational decisions way faster.
Exactly. I loved improv.
I'm going to get on the first flight instead of be here all day twiddling my thumbs. But people, unfortunately, that's another thing. I've noticed some comedians who like to talk shit about improv comedians is like, hey, for every Richard Pryor, George Carlin, I can have a Wayne Brady or Ryan Stiles. And they make it up. It is all listening and then reacting. That's comedy gold. But people think it's just, you're doing stupid stuff and bursting into sound. You're being a fool. It's like, it's not true. It is, but it isn't. You're being a fool, but it's by association. It's not on. just being
And
dumb.
you have to make, you have to make lemonade out of lemons when you get them, and that's the rule of event management as well. You just have to roll with the punches. There's no point. You can't like throw all your toys out of the cot because one person turned up late. You know what I mean? Okay, no worries. Get on with it. And it's easier said than done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But I become very like I'm very good in a drama, in an accident, in a high stress situation. I become very boop 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 boop. I'll be like, no, you go over there, you go over there, you go over there, you do that, you do that. Yeah, it becomes very. It's like I helicopter because it's exactly what it feels like. My brain is doing is helicoptering, assessing the situation, and working out what needs to be done.
Yes, correctamundo.
Yeah. Get on that radio. Fire in one, fire in the hole.
Fire in the hole. You should have done some cannon jumps at the circus. That would have been awesome.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of, actually, if you go to my YouTube channel or you go to the Candy Shop Mansion YouTube channel, there's a Candy Shop Mansion 2018 behind the scenes. And it's actually got the radio play of us calling Travis disappears. We did a magic stunt where he disappears over the water and he reappears. Okay, I didn't get to see the rehearsals of this stunt, obviously, because it's magic. But when it happened, the pressure under this stunt, when it happened, it was like, oh, thank God, because you didn't have a second take with that. You know what I mean? It's one guy disappears and one guy appears. Yeah, that was probably, and you can hear all the radio and I mean, you'll see there's water sports going on. There's jet skis jumping everywhere. There's fire, there's smoke, and there's a stage that's 20 meters high by 16 meters wide.
Perfect. Well, and
Yeah.
you are very active on YouTube. It's been, so how many pictorials and magazines did you do total, do you think, from what you've collected over the years?
Oh my God, that's
they
a
were
good
kind of,
question.
and
I
was
couldn't
it
answer
more, would you describe that as kind of perfume or just
No,
simple
I was a body model, so meaning I had a body, so I did swimwear. Swimwear was
All right.
swimwear and lingerie because I had meat on my bones, because I was sporty and had a body and not just rib cages and stuff like that. So I did a lot of catalogs, a lot of I mean I lived on the Gold Coast. It's like the tourist capital like Miami. So it was all swimwear stuff, swimwear brands,
Nice.
swimwear showings. Yeah. I did a lot more commercial stuff. So commercial meaning if you could see my eyes, so close up. I did a big milk campaign. Milk campaign where I had blonde hair, red hair, and dark hair. That was very successful back in the day. But I was a fit model and a shoe
Nice.
model where I made a lot of my money. So I stood there while they pinned on a fashion, whatever their fashion was, a size 10, let's say. And I got paid, when I was 19, 20, I got paid younger actually, 17, 18, I got paid, $150 an hour for that, minimum 4 hours.
Nice.
So yeah, that was my bread and butter work, and shoe showings. So I would put shoes on from the manufacturers and show the retailers.
Very rad.
Same thing, 150 an hour back then, which was amazing.
Isn't it wild too, having to remind everyone, yeah, that was great for back when it was oversaturated or the market was at where it was then. And
Yeah.
so, but do you think you've made it this far just by always not necessarily having a backup plan, by just being adaptable, kind of?
100%. Yeah. I mean, imagine if I just wanted to, I want to be an actor, but I'm going to be a mainstream actor and I'm not going to do any nudity. I would still probably be at Lee Strasberg. I mean, I don't know where, you know what I mean? Like, I was already doing cutting edge stuff with drag and talent when I was doing the music videos. So I was already open to working in slasher movies, or to do gonzo shooting, which is, quick run through the down Rodeo Drive before someone catches us,
Yeah.
Let's get the shot before anyone comes and tries to whack a fee on us.
It blows your mind too when you realize how many movies were literally shot illegally, like just guerrilla filmmaking, they call it.
Yep.
It is possible. It's just you got to have a end game for when you have
You gotta
someone
have a
trying to
plan
stop
B,
you. Yeah.
C, and D. Yeah.
It's always funny saying, "Oh yeah, I'm just a tourist who happens to have a camera. No, nothing to see here."
Yeah.
I don't know why that person is looks like an escaped patient or serial killer in the background. He's somehow there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you also think you don't have any regrets? I take it at this point. It's like I wouldn't do anything differently, really.
No regrets. You know, the only regret is that I didn't follow up Ed Lamato, who was, I think he was, what's the big agency? Morris.
That guy. That girl.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Sorry.
Anyway, that I should have followed up with that. You know, sometimes I think about what would have happened if I hadn't done the erotic movies, but what's the point of thinking about it? Because that's not the reality. So why torture yourself with that? You know what I mean? I'm really, really proud of everything that I've done. I'm really proud of the body of work that I have. Could it be better? Sure. Could it be, you know, could it have gone other places? Yeah, sure. I had a lot of roadblocks in my way, and was that an excuse? I don't think so. I was an illegal immigrant, had a lot of stuff to work out before I could actually even work legally, and still can't. You know, I don't have a green card. I didn't complete all of that. I still, you know, have.
It's a lot of annoyance, also. Just so everyone knows.
Yeah. And now I'm actually living in Melbourne, which is where they do shoot a lot of things, and I have to make a living to pay my bills and be able to do things. So you know, I can't go to a bunch of auditions, but you know, I am always an actress, and as I started to age, I remembered the actress in the Titanic,
Kate
who
Winslet.
I think was 90. Yeah, no, the older lady.
Oh,
Who played?
Yeah.
Kate played. Yeah. Who, you know, I think she was 90 at the time or something and was nominated. I don't know if she won an award, but I was like, you know what? It's never too late. It's never, once an actor, always an actor. I tried to do some theater, some community theater, and I turned up for the auditions on the Sunday and I said, oh, I've got to go somewhere, so I need to be first. Oh, and they were talking about their week and talking about how they're blah, 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 blah. I was like, I am not old enough to do this yet. I am too busy for this. You know what I mean? So
there you go.
yeah.
You set your rules, Dudette.
Yeah. But never say never on the acting. You know, the clackers they're not over yet. I would love to do some documentary style or Netflix style shows, you know, with lots of ideas. My involvement in the adult industry inspires me every day because I have stories with people and see their journey as well and love their stories. So there could be like a mini doco about the show and around all of that. Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of scratching at realizing what my potential is. I am confident. I say I'm confident. I present confidence, but obviously I'm still very hard on myself, and I probably don't know my true worth, but I'm starting to.
We all evolve differently at different times and everything. So, I mean, kind of like when we look at our favorite celebrity, is like, yeah, can you believe they punched someone? Like, yeah, because they're still going for their own face, whatever that might be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I love the recent Charlie Sheen, and I've met Charlie Sheen a bunch of times in those days where he was wasted. Yeah, I knew a bunch of Heidi Fleiss girls. I modeled for Heidi Fleiss. I hung out with a bunch of LA hookers and didn't know that they were hookers really for 2 years until like the penny finally dropped. But you know, I loved Charlie's story because it is a story of realization, and it did take him a little while to grow up, and he had to go through a lot, and he put his body on the line, and the
other thing is he was always a bad boy. He was always a bad boy, but everyone acted like, oh, first time. I'm like, no, he's been doing this a while.
And look at him now, like realizing, reflecting. It was a great, and you know, what's her name? His ex-wife, just beautiful. That you know.
The better question is which one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes, it's just funny.
The
it's like
reflectiveness of it all, from you know the chaos, the absolute chaos that he threw everyone around him into, you know, and he's still alive. They forgave him, and so does society. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back to movies and makes a major comeback.
I mean, anything is possible, certainly, because
Yeah. I mean, and same as Pamela Anderson. Look at her. I mean,
Yeah.
huge comeback on her own right. And that was another documentary that was just like phenomenal. Seeing her too. We think of these people, we put them on a pedestal. We think that they're invincible, and they're not. They're just people like you and me. And Pamela's still looking for her love story.
Demi Moore kind of had something like that, as well as just so many other people have had to realize. I mean, kind of with some of these different comebacks, everyone's been like, hey, I had to figure myself out. I had someone treating me like dirt, but
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm finally ready to come back out because I know there's a fan base who's here to support me.
Yeah.
You don't want to
That's
come
the
back.
journey. They've just had to do it in the eyes of everyone in the public eye. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, I'm sad that it had to be in front of everybody, but hey, it was going to happen regardless. I was going to have some breakdown or just some awful
Yeah.
event.
Everybody does. Everybody does. It's how you deal with it. You know what I mean? It's
Bingo.
not what happens to you, it's how you deal with it. Really grateful that we finally connected and that we're able to have a chat. And I love these conversations because it really reminds me, Cam, of where I've come from and of the number of things and the journey that I've been on and how expansive and how amazing it has been, and reminds me of, so many stories. I could sit and talk forever about, my 20 years in LA and my 15 years out now, and what that journey has been and what it's looked like. So I'm very grateful to you, Cam, for having
For
me
sure.
on today.
Thank you for your patience, and glad we made it happen.
A lot of my time right now is taken up with this exhibition, with the show, with it being so close. So my brain is just in the show right now, and it'll be a big countdown for us until the show is on.
No pressure. It's right around the corner.
No pressure.
At the end of the day, I guess at this point, you're still unsure of what you want to have be your crowning achievement. Sex is definitely part of it, but what do you ultimately want to be remembered for?
An Academy Award-winning documentary about the adult industry. There,
Okay.
I put it out there.
There you go. Okay, let's aim for that.
Yeah, let's do it.
You're at a place where you want to be, but you're also still just trying all kinds of other cool stuff out.
Yeah, just getting stronger and stronger.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up